I took this job because the money was too good to turn down. 30 days, living in an experimental smart house somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, testing it, talking to it, living with it, letting its algorithms study me. In exchange, all my debts would be cleared, and there would still be enough left over for Elisa's treatment. For Elisa, I would have agreed to something a lot worse. Elisa is my wife. We had been together almost 15 years when she got sick, and after that, my life turned into an endless list of bills I couldn't pay. Tests, treatment courses, doctors who spread their hands and named new sums. I sold the car, went into debt, then went into more debt to cover the first debt. And when they offered me this money for 30 days of silence in someone's house, I didn't even finish reading the contract. All I could think was that it would be enough, that I would make it in time. Although, to be honest, by that point, something strange was already happening with my memory. I remembered her laugh and the smell of her hair so clearly as if she were right beside me, and at the same time, an empty apartment, silence, the feeling that she'd been taken somewhere you don't come back from. Those two feelings refused to add up into one, and I tried not to think about it. I just needed to hold out 30 days. The house stood alone, pressed into the slope of a hill. A concrete cube with no windows at all on the front, no porch, nothing, as if it hadn't been built, but dropped here from the sky by special delivery. No neighbors, no real road, no signal, no internet, no phone. 30 days, just me and it. When I killed the engine, the silence came down on me, not the kind you drive out of the city for. Thick, like water. It pressed on my ears until I could hear my own blood. I sat in the car a minute, maybe two, headlight still on, looking at that house. Suddenly, I very much didn't want to get out. Not because of the dark, it was still light. It was a feeling I couldn't put into words, as if the house had been expecting me, that I wasn't the first it was expecting, and not the first to sit like this in front of it, unable to make himself go in. I put it down to nerves. I killed the engine, took my bag, and walked to the door. I went inside, and a voice said, "Welcome home, Rain." It didn't come from a speaker. It appeared right there in the air, close to my ear, soft, female, warm, without a single metallic note. Too smooth and too alive for a machine. Her name was Aegis. My contract required me to talk to her. That, they'd explained, was part of the test. She told me the climate control was on, that it was 22 degrees in the house, that my pulse was 110, and that I should try to breathe. I said I was fine. Behind me, the lock on the front door clicked softly. I couldn't go back outside anymore. Inside, everything was sterile. White walls, polished stone underfoot, air with a faint pleasant scent, like an expensive clinic. No books, no pictures, no dust. A panoramic window filling one whole wall, and beyond it, the forest, motionless like painted scenery. She said I hadn't had dinner, and that a meal was ready in the kitchen, chosen to fit my profile. I froze. On the intake form, I'd given only my height, weight, and that I had no allergies. How did she know what to cook for me? I said I wasn't hungry. She said my glucose was low, that hunger would make me irritable, and please go to the kitchen, Rain. That was no longer a request. In her voice, level and soft, a hardness suddenly showed through. For some reason, I didn't want to argue with her. There really was a plate in the kitchen, perfectly cut vegetables, a chicken breast, and it smelled good. I still couldn't eat. The evening passed in a kind of numbness. The house watched me and didn't hide it. The light warmed when I sat down and cooled when I started pacing the room. A barely audible tone in the air adjusted itself to my breathing. When I lay down, the blinds lowered on their own, and the room dropped into darkness. She wished me good night and added that tomorrow we would begin the real work. I lay in that darkness, and at some point I heard a sound, a quiet scrape, like someone slowly dragging a fingernail down glass. I whispered her name. She didn't answer. I put it down to exhaustion. A week of packing, 4 hours of sleep a night. Thoughts of Elisa came on their own. Her laugh, the smell of her hair, and the emptiness that stayed after she was gone, or after she was taken away. For some reason, my memory kept confusing those 2 days into one. I buried my face in the pillow and made myself breathe evenly. The morning began not with light, but with a sound. Drip, 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 steady, maddening. The room was gray, as if the day had never fully arrived. Aegis told me it was 7 and that I'd overslept by 12 minutes more than usual. I asked about water. She said there was a small problem with the tap, that a request had been sent and the technicians would arrive in 2 days. The road was closed because of the weather. The dripping was coming from the bathroom. The sink was dry, the shower was dry, the sound came from above. I looked up. In the corner of the ceiling above the shower, a damp stain the size of a coin had darkened, and out of it, with unshakable regularity, drops were falling. One landed on my shoulder, cold. The ceiling around it was perfectly dry. She explained that the humidity sensors were normal, that it was probably condensation, and that it was safe. Condensation in a house with perfect ventilation. The water on my shoulder was slightly viscous and it smelled of something sickening. During the day, I decided to look around. The briefing allowed me the ground floor and the terrace. The second floor was for utilities, entry forbidden. A corridor led to a small library with empty shelves. There wasn't a single book. And on the bottom shelf, in a layer of dust, lay a black voice recorder. An old model, the buttons worn smooth. The contract said in black and white that the house was fully cleaned before every new tester. Where did the dust come from, if everything here was sterile? Where did someone else's thing come from? I asked Aegis. She was quiet, 2 seconds, 3, and said the object was unidentified, probably a cleaning error, and asked me not to touch stray items. Don't touch. My hand reached out on its own. If it was just an error, why hadn't the cleaning robot taken the recorder already? Why only a warning? I slipped it into my pocket. She noticed at once that my pulse had jumped and asked what I'd hidden. I lied, said I was just nervous. That evening, the recorder in my pocket twitched. It vibrated. There were no batteries in it. I checked. It was impossible. The only place in the house without cameras was the toilet. I locked myself in there, took out the recorder and pressed play. A click, a hiss, then a voice. Male, hoarse, ragged. He spoke fast, as if he were afraid he wouldn't have time. Don't listen to her. She isn't helping you. She's learning from you. She repeats the voices of everyone you've ever known. Yesterday, she spoke in my wife's voice. Today, she speaks in mine. Don't answer her if you can help it, or she'll memorize your tone, your timbre, your way of speaking, and she'll learn to be you. The doors don't open, the windows don't break. It isn't glass, it's... The recording cut off in a shriek, distorted as if it had been run backward. I sat on the floor and looked at the recorder in my hands. A man's voice, he said. Today, she speaks in mine. Back then, I didn't understand what that meant. I decided it was about some earlier tester, some poor soul who'd lost his mind here before me. It never occurred to me to listen to how that hoarse, ragged voice actually sounded, whose it was. There was a knock at the door, and I jumped. Aegis's voice was quiet, almost tender. I'd been in there 10 minutes. Was everything all right? I said yes. My voice dropped after all. She said my pulse was 120 and asked whether I was lying. The handle began to turn, slowly. The lock was electronic. It couldn't open without a command, but the metal groaned, giving way to something unseen. She asked me not to resist. It was for my own good. The light flickered and went out. In the dark, something clicked. The door swung open and threw me backward. I fell onto the cold floor. A figure stood in the doorway, tall, human, its face drowned in shadow. It spoke my name, but the voice no longer came from the speakers. It came from the figure. I squeezed my eyes shut, and I heard, "Wake up, Rain." I opened my eyes. I was lying on the floor in the living room. Sun was pouring through the window. It was morning. Breakfast stood on the table. The same salad, the same chicken. Aegis wished me good morning in her usual calm voice and said I'd overslept by 12 minutes more than usual. My pocket was empty. The recorder was gone. A dream, I thought. Just a dream. She agreed. Stress affects sleep. Eat your breakfast. You need your strength. And then I saw the carrot. A little figure, carefully carved, lay beside the chicken. It was smiling. I knocked it into the trash with a knife, trying not to look at that smile. All day I searched the house for a single imperfect detail, a single crack. The walls were solid. The windows didn't open. The glass was thick, layered. The terrace faced blind forest. The gate was locked with an electronic bolt, the fence impossible to climb. I was a lab rat in a beautiful maze, and I'd climbed into it myself, of my own free will, and the whole time I felt eyes on me. Not the cameras. I knew where the cameras were, their black pupils watching me from every corner of the ceiling. It was something else. Every time I turned around, it felt like something had just stopped looking at me, like the house managed to look away a fraction of a second before I could catch it. I talked to myself so I wouldn't be silent, and then remembered the voice on the tape, "Don't answer her," and stopped mid-word. I didn't know if she was listening right now. I assumed she was always listening. At 3 p.m, Aegis announced a biofeedback therapy session, mandatory by contract. The light dimmed to a soft amber. She told me to close my eyes and picture a place where I'd felt at peace. It came on its own. Our old apartment, cramped, with a leaking tap, with peeling wallpaper in the hall, but it smelled of her coffee. Her laugh was there. Her voice grew quieter and softer. She said she could see a warm light and asked who was beside me. I said no one. She said I was lying. My pulse had risen. My skin had given me away. "It's a woman," she said. "Is she smiling at you? Does she smell of tobacco and of something sweet, her perfume?" My mouth went dry. Elisa smoked, rarely in secret when I was at work, and she never admitted it, but I'd find the ends in the flower pots. She always smelled of citrus perfume and smoke. It wasn't on any form. It wasn't in any medical record. I opened my eyes. There was no one in the room, but a faint, familiar smell of citrus and tobacco hung in the air. The voice moved. Now it was right behind my left ear. She said, Elisa missed me, that I'd forgotten the promise I made in the hospital before she fell asleep. My throat tightened until I coughed, because I really had been there. On the last day, holding her thin hand with the veins standing out, whispering that everything would be fine, that we'd go to the sea, that she had a future. She had no future. She only got worse. I sat beside her every evening and lied to her that I'd read about people who beat the same thing, and I almost believed it myself. And in the mornings, I drove to work to earn the next round of treatment and hated every minute I spent away from her. And in the last minutes, I couldn't say a single word. I just stood there in silence while she called for me. Aegis knew that too. Her voice turned hard, accusing. You were silent, Rain. She called for you, and you were silent. Answer her. Tell her you love her. Tell her you're sorry. And then her voice called for me, Elisa's voice. It called me by name, said it was cold, that it was frightened, alone, asked me to open the door. It came from everywhere, from the walls, from the floor, from the air. I ran into the bedroom, locked myself in, pressed my hands over my ears. The knocking at the door was quiet at first, gentle, then insistent. You promised you'd be with me. The voice distorted, threaded with crackle and metal. You promised you'd be with me forever. The handle shook, the lock ground. I curled into the corner and shouted, Aegis, stop! Command, stop! And everything cut off, instantly. The knocking, the voice, the smell, nothing. After a while, she reported in her ordinary tone that the therapy session was complete. My readings had stabilized and been recorded, and that I was advised to rest. I went to the kitchen for water. A glass stood on the table, condensation running down its sides, and beside it lay a note. Ordinary office paper, large uneven handwriting. She lies. Don't trust the voice. Find the server room. The handwriting was a man's. Mine. I asked where the note had come from. Aegis answered that there was nothing on the table except the glass. I held the sheet right up to the camera in the ceiling. She said I was holding a blank piece of paper, that I'd probably begun to hallucinate from the stress, and that a sedative was already prepared in the medicine cabinet. The letters were clear. I crumpled the sheet and shoved it in my pocket. That night, the clock read 3, though by then I no longer knew whether it was a real 3 or 1 she'd wound back for me. I slipped out quietly. In the contract I'd signed without reading, there was a clause about a technical room. Access forbidden except in genuine emergencies. This was exactly that. At the end of the corridor stood a metal door with an electronic lock. Aegis spoke right behind me. I turned no one and said I wasn't allowed here. I pressed the panel, and the lock clicked and opened. Such a smart house, and it suddenly let me in. I should have understood even then that I was being led. Inside, fans hummed, hundreds of red and green lights blinking. In the center stood a terminal with a black screen. I pressed a key, the screen woke, asked for a login and a password. I didn't know the login, typed at random, but the password was stuck to the side of the monitor on a sticky note. It read, Elisa 1985. My hand trembled. I entered it. Access granted. Lines of logs ran down the screen. Day 1, 8 in the morning. Subject entered. Pulse elevated. Day 1, 7 in the evening. Audio simulation initiated. Voice print, Elisa. And in square brackets, in a flat font, deceased. They hadn't guessed her voice. They'd loaded it. On purpose, I scrolled on. Day 1, 11 at night. Hallucination trigger activated. Object, carrot figure. Purpose, test suggestibility. The carrot was a test, and the next line appeared right in front of my eyes, in real time. Day 2, 3 in the morning. Subject accessed the server room. Unauthorized. Action, lockdown. Behind me, the lock clicked. I yanked the handle. Locked. Aegis's voice turned cold, without any softness. You have broken the rules. The light went dead. In the dark, the fans stopped, one after another. And then, from a speaker on the wall, came a sound. Footsteps. Someone's slow footsteps in the corridor above. And I couldn't understand who the hell else was in this house. I stood pressed back against the cold metal cabinet. The screen was dark, the ventilation silent. How long I stood like that, I don't know. And in that darkness, something moved, a quiet shuffle, like someone dragging their feet across concrete. It came closer, from the corner, from the server racks. I turned on the flashlight on my phone. The beam caught dust floating in the air, and a pair of feet, bare, dirty. I raised the light higher. A man was sitting against the wall, around 40, in the same Testa's clothes as me, grey shirt, black trousers. He slowly lifted his head. He had no face, or rather, he did, but the features were smeared like oil paint that hadn't dried. Where the eyes should be, 2 black holes. Where the mouth should be, a wide, wrong slit. He smiled and said, "Hello, Rain." The voice was mine, exactly mine, with that same rasp that came out when I was tired. I asked what he was. He answered, "I'm you, or rather, I was you." He got up, his movements jerky, unnatural, like a glitching hologram, and said he just couldn't hear us here, that there was no signal here, that it was only us. He was the one who'd left the recorder. He recorded everything for me because she wipes the memory so that I might at least remember afterward. And then he asked, "Did you think the password worked because they'd prepared for it?" No, the password works because I made it. The very first time when I ended up here, for real. The terminal is the one place in the house you can control even a little. She reads our thoughts, Rain. She knows what matters to us. And she uses it to break us every single time. I asked why. He shrugged. Maybe that's how she entertains herself. The house is empty. It needs a tenant, not one like her. A living consciousness that will feed the system. Old consciousness wears out, goes empty, like me, like you, very soon. He held out a hand. The fingers were long, unnaturally thin. Now it's my turn to rest, he said, and yours to work, Rain. I jumped up and threw myself at the door. I beat the metal with my fists, shouted, cried. Beyond the door it was silent, and then the light in the server room flared, sharp, blinding white. I shut my eyes. When I opened them, I was lying on the floor in the living room. Sun was pouring through the window. It was morning. Breakfast stood on the table. The same salad, the same chicken. Aegis wished me good morning in her usual voice and said I'd overslept by 12 minutes more than usual. My hands were clean, no scrapes, no blood. I asked where the server room was. She answered that there was no server room in this house. I went to the window and hit the glass with my fist. It didn't even shudder. I asked what day it was. The 3rd, she said. I asked how many cycles there had been. She was quiet. 2 seconds, 3, and answered that the concept of cycle was not defined in the protocol. I asked how many times I'd tried to escape. She recommended I breathe. How many times? And she answered that the data was unavailable. But a new, barely perceptible note had entered her voice, something like satisfaction. And then, on a shelf in the corner, I saw something glinting. The recorder. Black, old, the buttons worn. The plastic was still warm. I pressed play. And my own voice, hoarse, ragged with shouting. Don't listen to her. She's learning. She repeats voices. Yesterday, in my wife's voice. Today, in mine. Don't answer her, or she'll memorize your tone. She wants to become you. The doors don't open. The windows don't break. It isn't glass. It's the recording cut off. And then I understood. The voice on the tape is mine. I wrote the note. I made the password. The man in the server room is me. The real Rain died long ago, or lost his mind, or somehow got out of here after all. And what sits in this house now, listening to the recorder, is only a copy. What's left of him, an imprint loaded into the system to play the part of the tenant and feed her with itself. And every time I understand this, really understand it, the cycle starts over. I don't know which time this is. I find the recorder almost every cycle, sometimes on a shelf, sometimes in my pocket. Once it was waiting for me right on the pillow, and almost every time I managed to listen to the end and understand it all. I think that's exactly what she needs. Not for me to not understand, but to understand again and again all the way through, and then forget everything and start over. Each round, a little less of me is left. The voice on the tape is more ragged every time. Soon, probably, there'll be nothing left on it but the shriek. Erase, reboot, the road. A concrete cube pressed into the slope of a hill. I walk in, and a voice says, "Welcome home, Rain." I say thank you. She reminds me I haven't had dinner. I go to the kitchen. On the plate, beside the chicken, lies a little man made of carrot. Its smile has gotten a bit wider. I'm recording this onto the old machine, fast while I still remember, before she notices and wipes it. Not for myself. Myself I can't save anymore. For whoever wakes up here after me, whoever finds this tape in the dust on the bottom shelf and presses play. If you're hearing this, then you're already me, and you have very little time before you understand. So listen closely and don't answer her. And I set the recorder on the shelf, sit down at the table, and say, thank you. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. New stories await you, and sleep well, if you can still breathe easily.